what's up, Pecker Woods?
Hey, man.
Hey.
Oh,
Oh,
shoot.
I can't hear him.
Oh,
Give me
yeah, here.
Yeah, I need an ear.
Hold
Oh
on.
no, this isn't gonna work.
It's weird. It's weird. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
Go. Yeah, switch.
It's bonkers because I got in before and then it like Zoom just freaking crashed. It said fuck off and then crashed. Freaking hard on me, dude. It's
I'll be honest, this is my first time using Zoom, so I was surprised how quick and easy we got it set up for us.
It's super easy but it just freaked the fuck out for a second there. I don't know what happened. Yeah, hold on. Starting video now. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just
Cool.
fine, man.
How you doing? I wear this mask on me all the time now. This is my new accessory.
Right? the times, man.
And look at you,
Times.
you're like in a proper recording studio, and I am on Bluetooth, kind of earbuds. And
I mean, we're just in his basement.
This is my basement converted into a makeshift
I
sort of
hear
setup.
well, right now I'm having a world-class studio built down the hall. It's just in my house, but I apologize if I start like drifting off into kind of nonsense. They're putting down a sealed concrete floor, and it's on the other side of the house, and technically can't even access it through the walls. It's like there's not even a hole cut out for the studio yet into our house. It's connected, but you can smell that sealant that they're using, and I'm getting
nice.
super high from it. Like it's just lovely.
No, yeah, we have no soundproofing down here, so sorry if you hear a dog or a kid.
Oh, there's not. There could be construction outside pretty soon. So
yeah, I've got a toddler running around. So
I didn't. Truth is, dude, I didn't actually look up your podcast. I didn't.
That's probably for the best.
I just saw Dad on it, and I'm like, sold. There you go.
Yeah. No, I mean we were friends in high school. We reconnected. Like, hey, let's do a podcast. We're dads now, and we'll do a sort of podcast centered around the things we like as dads and the things our kids are getting into, stuff like that, whatever nerdy shit.
Yeah, dude, I'm into it. So have you produced any of them yet, or are you still kind of in production on it? Or
yeah, we go live. We roll it live on his Twitch. And then he sends me the audios. I edit it down a little bit, get some of the ums out and the like and so and all those junky things out. And
long,
then I put
awkward pauses.
Yeah, we get a lot of this. But then I put it out. I think Apple picked it up last week, but that's pretty easy to do, so it's not really saying too much.
Yeah.
But it's not the first one I put out, but it's definitely one that I can relate a little better to. So it's a little easier to make. But yeah, so I told this guy like, hey, I'm gonna send out some emails or something to a few up and start voice actors, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever I think I might be able to. So like your name, I think I sent out to like Johnny Young Bosch and all these guys that I just didn't expect to hear back from anybody. And here you are, man.
Yeah,
you coming on, Chris. No.
Because I know Johnny, and I can talk to Johnny for you. And if you want another guy who'd probably do it, Jason David Frank could probably do it too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a grown kid, but.
Well, it was easier to get a hold of you, I think, because it was just I could message you on Facebook. Everybody else, like the only thing I could find is like talent agency emails and stuff. And I'm like, well, I know how this goes. I'm not going to hear shit back from most of these people.
Right. Well, you're lucky because normally I don't ever check Facebook messages. Like I never check those. Like recently I did. I got I did a modification of my phone. I normally don't have any alerts at all, but I posted every now and then. I'll post something to Facebook just to give my mother something to look at.
Right.
And it just so happened that I got a rando message from somebody else, and every now and then I'll go and check the random inbox where people who aren't friends of mine send me messages, and normally it's filled with weird shit, but yours
I bet, man. I bet.
Yours is good. Yours is fun.
So I guess we'll jump into a few questions for you. Learn a little bit about the man. So Um,
Has the podcast already started? Are we already like technically in the podcast at this point?
So we're recording this because we do
Yeah.
live every Thursday.
Yep.
So what we're going to do, we're going to rip the audio and then play it through when we do live next Thursday. So
Cool. Sorry.
I'll heavily edit me and you so we sound good and let him sound like an idiot.
it's perfectly fine. I'm used to it.
Yeah, that'll work for me, man. I wish I was recording on a better microphone here. I guess I could if you wanted me to. Although it's really content that people give a shit about on podcasts anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, with the whole COVID stuff, a lot of people are doing more and more Zoom setup interviews. I think people are a little used to a different quality of podcast these days.
True.
So I don't think it'll be a big deal.
I feel like the whole world has started to accept a loss of quality. Because there's just literally been a loss of quality across everything, and everyone's just pretty cool with it. And for people who work in the production audio business, or they're voice actors, we own studios, that the whole point of having one is so that people don't have to have audio like that.
Right.
And so it's scary to me how many more companies are just like, well, I mean, that's fine, right? I mean, like that's good, right? I mean, that's what the Today Show was using. So so yeah, it's been tricky going around trying to kind of navigate what things are like these days. Now, granted, I'm in Texas. At least I'm not in Los Angeles, so things are definitely different in LA.
Yeah.
People still aren't leaving their house as much, but in Texas, you can kind of determine how much you want to be hung up on the COVID stuff. Like I'm pretty safe when I go out, but I also believe that like if you can make your workplace about as safe as a grocery store, you're probably okay. You know what I mean? If you're going to get groceries, you're putting yourself at risk. So if you can do that, you can come work for us too. So plus there's a lot of actors who can't survive much longer without like some of the stuff happening, you know?
Yeah, they've pushed a lot of stuff back.
Dude, so much stuff. It's been bad.
All right. Well, so I started listening to a lot more of your interviews because I know everything about the animes that you do, but I didn't know much about the man. And one of the things I heard most often started was, "You were the voice of my childhood." Does that get old to hear, or does it make you feel older every time you hear it?
Well, no, not necessarily, because sometimes when someone's saying that to you, they're literally handing you money, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. They're like, sign this piece of plastic, and but it doesn't get old. It's some people, it bothers them, and it just doesn't. It never gets old to me, because I just think about how people were like, the people who watched the show were one of the last generation of people that were stuck in a position to where they either had to race home and watch it, or they'd have to somehow wait 6 months. They just have to accept that they missed it, and then just hopefully they had a friend that could tell them what was happening, because there was hardly any internet back then, so you couldn't just look up episode summaries to figure out what had happened. If you missed it, you missed it. If your parents recorded over your VHS tape or whatever, like, you're screwed.
Yeah, man, when timed VHS came out, that was a game changer for me, because I had like set for every Dragon Ball Z episode. That changed my life.
Definitely. I hated coming home and my mom was watching her soap operas and I had to miss an episode of something, and it was the absolute worst.
Yeah, now you don't have to worry about missing anything. In fact, you just kind of watch everything kind of on your own pace.
With my handy computer in my pocket.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's been a trip, dude. It's I think about my kids sometimes when people come up and say, you were the voice of my child, and I try and think about all the things that really influenced me growing up. But it's weird though, because my influences, I guess I was just never really into fandom per se. Like
that's what my next question was going to be. With the type of stuff, because it's a weird jump from radio to Funimation. Like I know you had an in there, but you had different avenues you could have taken.
Well,
What stuck out about it?
I mean, I hadn't in per se because but that's how you get all jobs.
Yeah,
Like there's very few jobs you get because you don't know, somebody who recommended it. Like very like God, I feel sorry for people today trying to fill out job applications because it's like you're competing in a lottery to get a freaking desk job. But
right.
the but yeah, I don't know. I was never like into I was never kind of a fan of comic books growing up because I didn't have anyone that ever introduced me to them. Because comic books, I don't think are something that you just like instinctively like just kind of discover. I don't know. Maybe you do. Like I don't know. Maybe everyone has their own story, but like, I never really I didn't really read comic books when I was young. I didn't have an older brother or any friends that were kind of into them. I was just a weird kid, and I was into a lot of weird stuff. But
Yeah,
the reason why it resonated with me is because the one thing I've always loved to do is play around with like audio. I've always been fascinated with audio. I learned
for
how to play
sure.
piano at a young age. I had a super deep voice at a really young age, and I was in love with like cassette players, and I loved making mixtapes, and uh, I was obsessed with the library, and I would go and get all these sound effects records and make these weird kind of like atmospheres where I'd just be recording like on a boombox in my room, but I'd have like multiple record players to make it like there's sounds of people here and there's the sounds of the plates here. And I was always obsessed with like production. And then
Yeah,
when I was in junior high school, I guess I learned how to do kind of rudimentary like MIDI uh, music making, like making music with keyboards and stuff. It was all pretty, a lot of wires back then, and
right.
so it all sort of fit in. Like working on Dragon Ball, it was a remarkable first job to get. But I think the thing that really got me was that it was creating something, and it's working in audio. So while I may not be like a geek about like the fandom itself, I am a geek about the audio. I'm a geek about the process. I love production, and I love like making creative stuff.
Very cool. So, like on the music front, what are some of the bands that influenced you?
Well, I had a lot of weird influences, stuff that I never really liked pop music that much. Um, I was when I was really young, I was into like there was this French musician named Jean-Michel Jarre, and it's like Jean and then Michael and then Jarre for anyone who's listening and doesn't know how to like spell French words. Uh, he was this like French electronic musician that like back in when I was in elementary school. This had been back in the 80s, right after the Challenger uh spaceship blew up.
Right.
I grew up in Houston, and I lived across the street basically from NASA, and all the astronauts were
Yeah.
like their kids were my friends. And so it was a pretty terrible time. And the French musician came during that time, and he does these massive concerts where he sets up all these synthesizers, and then he uses all of your downtown as a stage where he does like lasers and
Wow.
projections and all this stuff. And it was
Oh,
like
that would be epic.
yeah, it was like kind of like a rave before a rave sort of existed in a way, but it was kind of a rave for kind of old people too, because there was composition involved, and it was and it had a kind of it was kind of an all ages sort of. He never did anything too edgy, but when I was young and I went with my friends. I was early like junior high school, like late like eighth grade ish. I left the group I was in. I was with my neighbors or whatever, and I walked all the way to the front of the stage. And when I got close enough, he was playing a laser harp, which is like this thing he had
Oh
invented,
man,
which is just like using his hands to control music. I'm like,
Jesus.
my mind was blown, and
Right.
so he was like probably one of my earliest influences. If you listen to it now, you're like, God, this is kind of it's not edgy. You certainly wouldn't necessarily dance to it per se, but it was a lot of synthesis. I loved I liked Walter and Wendy Carlos. Well, actually, he's Wendy Carlos now because he's transitioned, but he was famous for doing a lot of synthesizer versions of classical music, like switched on Bach and like switched on Mozart and stuff
Oh,
like that.
nice.
ooh,
Uh, and he like it was a cool thing for me. I liked anything that had synthesizers in it because I was obsessed with them.
I feel it.
But now I'd say of all my all-time favorites, I'd say like there's a guy named Amon Tobin. He's a badass. Basically does the same thing that Jean-Michel Jarre did, except he's super, super high tech about it, and he uses a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of found sound, a lot of Foley type sounds. Um, but I also really like I kind of really like beats too. I'm a huge fan of beats, so hip hop is a thing for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Same here.
but you know, that's it. Music wise, like and now I mean, of course, these days since this is a dad podcast, I listen to a lot of Sia and Christina Aguilera and Camila Cabello and anything that's girl friendly. I am having to listen to the Frozen soundtrack. Seriously,
Right.
I mean, that's practically on repeat, right?
yeah. Surprised I can't hear it right now.
So, getting into some of the anime aspects, are there any like anime over the years that you wish you were a part of, whether it was producing, voice acting, sound design?
Uh, well, it's kind of hard because I was in most of them.
That's 100% fair.
They're like I would have always said like Ghost in the Shell, but I actually ended up getting to play.
Yeah.
I got to play Bato in a newer version of Ghost in the Shell where
Mhm.
it wasn't the same cast as the standalone complex because those guys are all freaking legendary.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
I saw that one on Netflix not too long ago. It was
it's
real
funny.
good though.
Richard Epcar is another voice actor who has a deeper voice too. He's a little older than I am, but he played Bato in Ghost in the Shell, and he also played Jigen in Lupin the Third. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Yeah.
series.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I
I
have
love that.
since played both of those characters, so he and I talk about like every time I play a role that he's played, I always like
So
message him,
are you
apologize.
intentionally out to take his jobs?
Like, if we weren't good buddies, he'd be pissed. But like, yeah, I actually brought him in to use him on Lupin the Third, but I wanted to play Jigen so badly, and I made him a different character, Zenigata. Um, let's see, I guess some of my favorite anime. I've actually gotten a chance to work on them. I like the really off the wall stuff that's not traditional. Like
Right.
when I go to Anime Expo, someone will probably kill me for saying this, but like I get a little bored because I look around and it's like all the characters kind of look so similar to one another. You can
Mhm.
literally you can just take I don't even know why they're making any new animation in anime these days because they could just take the existing stuff and put a similar story right on top of it.
Yeah.
But I like the weird stuff. I got to work on a show called Ninja Slayer, which is super, super, super weird, and it's really good for when you put your kids to bed and you're in a state where cannabis is legal and like you can just watch that show. It's a bizarre show, like about this. God, it's so stupid. It reminds me of like a '90s Adult Swim kind of bizarro type Aeon
Oh, that
Flux
sounds fantastic.
era type stuff, but it's dumb. It's really. Have you ever seen Panty and Stocking
Yeah.
featuring?
I haven't seen it, but I've seen plenty about it.
It's kind of like that, where it's just sort of it's genre breaking. Uh, this ninja, it's the what's funny is that it comes from a graphic novel that's absolutely gorgeous. You look at this graphic novel and it's just so beautiful. And so when you were expecting Ninja Slayer to be released, you thought it was going to be like also beautiful, but
Yeah.
instead it looks like these cardboard cutouts of the characters. And when they fight, they like lift up and then hit their feet together like this. And then there's real fire and they explode. Uh, and then another show that I worked on is was called what was it? It was based on a 4-panel comic thing. What was it called? Pop Team Epic. Are you guys familiar with that one at all?
I've seen a little bit about that. I think I watched a short little bit of it.
So I just like the weird anime. I like
Yeah.
the weirder the better for me. And I'm not talking weird as in like needs to be tentacles or anything like that. I just like the kind of the bizarre stuff that kind of breaks the mold. But that's kind of what I like in all media, really.
Yeah. I've been watching through a lot, and it's definitely, it gets to a point where you've got character set up and then there's a tournament of some sorts, and then you big bad face off with the bad guy, then you get some subtle filler episodes, then you're back into a tournament of some sorts, and then
But
it's
then
just that.
You forgot though. There's got to be there has to be the hot springs episode,
Oh,
or
there's
the
always the hot springs episode.
or the episode where they go to the pool or something. They got it. Like I think I sometimes believe that in Japan they can't find animators unless they can promise them there'll be one episode where they get to draw women's bodies or something.
So with all the different roles and stuff that you've done, is it almost a compliment if somebody doesn't recognize your voice in a role?
Oh, I love it. Yes, it's the best because yeah, I'm a producer too, and I've done a lot of voice directing. And the hardest thing when you run a studio and you're casting something is fighting that desire to want to play everything yourself.
Right.
And once you've done that long enough, I like clients will come to me and say, "Hey, are you going to are you going to play one of these characters like in this thing?" I'm like, "Well," it's like, "Could you please?" I go, "I'm sorry. It's just when I look at that character, I see Ian Sinclair, or I see, I see Bob Carter doing this, or I think this would be a great role for so and so." So I've been really like, when you start seeing all the tools you have around you, and Ian Sinclair is certainly a tool.
Right.
I've said that into the camera out loud for him, so in case he ever watches, he knows I'd love to make fun of him. He's one of my best friends too. But yeah, once you kind of get used to your arsenal of actors that you have that you work with, like the idea of me even using myself like kind of goes out the window. But I love it when people don't
For
recognize
sure.
me.
What role or do you get more satisfaction out of, producer, director, or actor?
It's too hard because I think that's the thing I like about what I do. I'm too ADHD to do one thing all the time. I get
That's
like
cool.
when I'm voice acting, I'm always looking at my phone looking for like what I'm supposed to be doing on the producing side.
Yeah.
And when I'm directing, I'm too busy to act, and so I love the kind of mixture of all the things I get to do.
So are you able to go into acting more blind if you're not producing or directing that particular episode or series?
Oh yeah, I mean, half of what we do is going into these episodes blind. Like I know 99% of what we do is we go into these episodes because you get called up, and unless you're lucky enough to work on like one of the really big shows,
Yeah.
where there's a little bit more room to research, and even in those cases, you don't have a chance to. A lot of times, you just walk in and you go, "What's my character doing today?" And they're like, "They're at the hot springs." You're like, "Okay, there you go." And then you just you cold read a lot of your lines, and you have to rely on your director a lot to make sure that they know what they're giving you the information you need. But a lot of the times, it's an exercise in being able to read something quickly, look
Yeah.
at it, and figure out how to do it super fast, which is my kind of like my favorite thing to do.
Right on.
So outside of anime, obviously you've been part of quite a few video games as well. So what would you say is not necessarily the favorite role you've done, but what's one of your favorite video games?
Oh, dude. Well, as a dad, it's getting harder and harder to play video games. So I was joking the other
That's a fact.
my favorite video game is the game I'm actually able to play. However, I've been, because of that, I've had to modify, like, get my gaming out in a different way, and I do play a lot of iPhone games. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Same here.
I've been playing one called. I can't stop playing one called Grindstone. It's amazing, and there's another one. There's like a turn-based one called Ticket to Earth that is really, really good. Hearthstone is another one that's excellent.
Yeah, I played that one.
Hearthstone's a lot of fun.
And there was another one. I'm constantly playing iPhone games whenever I can, but I'd say some of my favorite console games. I'd still say Red Dead Redemption and
Nice.
Red Dead Revolver. Like any of the Red Dead series was great. I recently I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
Dude, it's such a good game, man. And I'm building. I've been in the process for 3 years of kind of building, remodeling a house. And the more I've been playing through Ghost of Tsushima, the more I've been like messaging my wife saying like, "Hey, we're gonna have to get some ginkgo trees for the backyard." constantly running through these gorgeous yellow trees everywhere. I'm like, I want to do that in my backyard. I want to run through a bunch of gorgeous yellow trees. Uh, and so, what else have I been playing lately? Yeah, I played a game with my daughter called Cat Quest. So if there's any dads who are actually watching this, Cat Quest is a great game to play with your kids.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like an RPG style little hack and slash game
Hmm.
it's great.
Kind of like the old, what is it, Chrono Trigger, that kind of action-based RPG.
Yes, yeah, you're running around and it's less there's no calculations really other than oops, that person's way too high of a number, so we're gonna get our asses kicked here. But it's a blast. I love playing with that.
Yeah, I've been playing through a lot of Mario and Spyro, like old games that are okay for my son to watch.
Yeah, yeah. Spyro is one of those games I introduced my daughter to it, and she just didn't get into it. And Mario, the Mario games, they were into it when they were really young, but they just still don't like them. I'm having a hard time kind of getting them into anything that's really too classic.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fair. You know, there's a lot more stuff that's bigger and flashier now than
I
you know, running and jumping on mushrooms and
no, I busted out the Super Nintendo, and the kids were super excited for it. And my daughter, the first game she grabbed was Super Mario RPG, and she played it for about a minute, got bored, walked away, and then 5 minutes later wanted to play it again. And so she'll do that for a minute. She'll play this game, get bored, walk away. 5 minutes later, she's back again. And
I probably should have done that. Except instead, I just played for hours and hours and hours.
well, what are some of the crazier sort of things that happen on the set of making an anime?
It's not as crazy as you would think. It was definitely way crazier back when we started working on Dragon Ball because it was like 1998, 99, 2000.
The Wild West era.
Funimation wasn't even, I mean, they were a company, but I'd have to use some pretty big finger quotes because it was just just a handful of these dudes that somehow managed to get the license for Dragon Ball and had very little idea of what they were doing. They were just sort of figuring it out as they went along. And and they luckily found me, and I didn't even know that much of what I was doing either, but I'm the type of person that likes to figure stuff out too. So we kind of fumbled our way through. But back then, nobody was getting paid anything. Like I remember when I started working on Dragon Ball, I'm doing all these voices, working 120 hours a week, trying to get the stuff. I was just living there. Jesus. Luckily, a lot of my friends worked there too. So, I kind of made friends, and we were all friends there. So work was fun. But yeah, I mean, I was making like 20 grand a year, like working on that job, like just enough to live in a house with like 4 other people and our dogs and stuff. But yeah, man, it was good times because it didn't have a very company. Oops. Oh, wow. We've been upgraded by the host. Damn.
What? Unlimited minutes.
Y'all got upgraded?
I didn't know that was a thing till now.
I didn't either.
I feel special now.
Damn. Maybe they know who I am. Just yeah, man. Like it was just kind of fun back then. Like everybody. It was just after working really really long hours, you'd start doing really weird stuff. Like I'm probably not supposed to talk about this, but I don't know. But like you'd start saying weird stuff on the microphone, and you'd make weird recordings and stuff. And
right.
There was like this. I don't know. We were just all a bunch of creative people working and kind of doing what we all like to do. So trying to think of some.
I get it. I mean, I grew up in a music studio doing the same sort of shit, long hours recording songs, and after a while, you just start fucking with shit because it's there.
Dude,
it's kind of how it was in like theater in middle school and high school too, when you have those really long rehearsals, and by the end of it, nothing makes sense.
Oh, dude, yeah, we were up there till 1, 2 in the morning half the time, and then going home and sleeping and coming and trying to be there on time again for 10 the next day. There was one time where I'd gone. There was one time where I had gone out with some guys after work, and I needed to go back up and work on something. I was working on like a trailer for something. I think it was like for a show called Blue Gender. But we went out and we had some drinks. And then when I went out to go smoke a cigarette, because in the late 90s you still did that. Um, but I forgot that I'd left my keys to the building in the building, so I basically locked myself out. But I was
Man.
but I had just enough beers to where I decided I could possibly just break the window and get in, because I think I'd left my cell phone in there too. And like I do recall taking a trash can and smashing it up against the window, and it made like the tiny white mark in it. But as I saw that, I'm like, this is a terrible idea. This is a really, really bad idea. So I didn't do that, and I ended up like luckily reaching someone that could get me to the building. But um, I don't know. A lot of stuff we did was kind of bled from work into home too. A guy named Justin Cook. He's the voice of
Yeah.
he's the voice of Raditz and Super Boo, and he was Yusuke Urameshi. He and I were like best buds, like super super good buds. Actually, that reminds me, I owe him an email. We were
Shoot.
like super 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 good friends, and we would work, and then he would come over to my house and we'd play The Sims. And Sims was not a 2-player game. It was more of a, all right, you do what you do for a while, and I'm going to build on my house and I'll save, and then you can build on your house. Except Justin was worse than I was about like not having self-control. And I would go to sleep and I would wake up and he'd still be there at like 6 o'clock in the morning, still working on his house in The Sims.
I mean, sometimes you can't interrupt that creativity.
No, you can't. I remember he made the best house because he had found this bug kind of in the game where he made his character look like Tony Soprano because he was really into The Sopranos, and he made a moat around his whole house. And I guess he figured out that if you make a moat around your house, like surround it with water, that everyone who comes to your house has to like get into the water and then get out. But when they do, they're in their bathing suits. So like he would and everyone would be walking around their house in the bathing suit. It was really funny.
Oh yeah, the things you learn about these games.
Dude, it was pre-internet too. So it wasn't like he could have looked up that stunt on the internet. Those are things that like it would have been great. It'd have been a great YouTube bit at this point. So
yeah, I think the first grade we had computers was my third grade, and they had the Sim City game. And if you built the mountain high enough, hit the tornado, kill Superman, we crashed the entire row of computers.
Dude, yeah, that's how you played, man.
So, what are some young names we need to look out for coming up in the industry right now?
Man, everybody who's on My Hero Academia right now, those guys are like the next generation of awesome people. Clifford Chapin's amazing. Justin Briner, who plays Midoriya. I'll tell you, one of the biggest superstars. He's like, to me, like the Gary Oldman of anime voice acting right now.
That's high praise.
Yeah, his name is Damon Mills.
Okay.
And if look him up, he also like some of his pictures. There's another actress named Kaylee Mills, and I always joke with him about like that's his Hannah Montana. He's nice. Dude, this guy, like, you just look at a picture of him, and he's just the sweetest, nicest dude. Very kind of gentle attitude in person, but he can do like the craziest, deepest voices, and he's got such an incredible range. He's the guy that kind of filled in for Chris Ayres on Frieza when Chris was sick in the hospital.
Okay.
But he also did a perfect voice match for like what is his name? Walking Dead Negan. Yeah, he can also do like he did a perfect voice match for Negan's voice for a commercial they was working on. Like the guy's just incredible.
Okay.
He's amazing. And then there's like people like Dawn Bennett, and she's incredible too. She played like she was one of the new Saiyans in Dragon Ball Super. So
Yeah.
like the
Okay.
Kepler. Amazing voice. God, there's so many good ones. Tia Ballard is incredible. I mean, I'm kind of out of the loop. I'm just the old guy you call up now. Like,
I mean, you've paid your dues though. You gotta throw that weight around however you want to.
sure.
So to make some people jealous or maybe even a little angry, do you have a favorite voice actor of your own?
Oh man. Again, I don't fan out as hard on people, but some of the best voice actors I know are people like, oh man, have you ever heard I guarantee you've heard his voice a billion times. His name is Jason Arnold Taylor. Have you heard of him?
Yes. Yeah.
Dude, that guy is unbelievable. His impressions are the best I've ever heard. He's absolutely incredible. There's I'm trying to think. I don't get the luxury of getting to work with as many of the LA guys as much as I want to, but like Matt Mercer's great. All of the Critical Role guys are amazing. Trying to think of who. Right now I don't have a favorite voice actor. However, I've had this thing where I really want to work on any show where I can cast Charlie Day as the main character.
That's fantastic.
Freaking love that dude's voice
Right.
so much.
No, I feel it. Well, we don't want to keep you here forever. So I'm sure you got better things to do than to sit around here and talk with us all day.
Got to make
What
sure your
else
house is,
COVID time, man. Stuck in my house.
I feel it, man. Can we ask for one request to have for the intro of the podcast? Just if we can get All Might saying you're listening to Doodads in the podcast.
Two dads and a podcast, sure. It's like, hi, I'm Christopher Sabat. I'm the voice of All Might, and I am here on Two Dads and a Podcast.
Hey, this is Tired Dad, and you've been listening to the Two Dads and a Podcast interview series. For more content, like and subscribe to this channel. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitch, and everywhere podcasts are available. To help us bring you more of these amazing interviews, you can support us on our Patreon. Just follow the links below, and thanks for watching.